The summer breeze drifted through the open window as Samuel lay dozing beside my hand. When I finally looked up from finishing the professor's assignment, I saw a gentle gust ruffling his hair, revealing a face so striking it made me catch my breath. He looked so adorable while asleep that I couldn't resist reaching out to play with the little tuft of hair poking up on his head. Just then, my phone buzzed. I turned my head slightly, and a news alert popped up right in front of me. Heir to the MO Group conglomerate and heiress from the Lin Group are set to marry. Rumors say their engagement ceremony may take place later this year. My heart skipped a beat, my fingers clamped around the phone, and I bit down hard on my lower lip. The feeling in my stomach was like being stuffed with a huge block of ice, heavy and cold. The hand I'd been about to reach out with suddenly pulled back as if stung. "Why aren't you touching?" Samuel hadn't been asleep at all. He opened his eyes, noticing my move. I switched to a new shampoo. He grabbed my wrist and leaned his head into my palm, rubbing against it smoothly. I took a quick breath, gave him a couple of careless strokes, then pulled my hand back. I handed the phone to him, pretending not to care. "It says you're getting engaged. Is that true? Why didn't you mention it before?" "Oh." Samuel glanced at the screen, scratching his head casually. "Families arranged it. We're supposed to meet up for dinner in a few days. The place is the same private restaurant we went to last time. You love their seafood congee, right? I'll bring you some when we get back." It was real. Everything Samuel said after that faded into silence. All I could hear was that glaring headline echoing over and over in my empty mind, like a voice broadcast straight from within. "Samuel doesn't know, but I have a secret. I've had a crush on Samuel. From the very first time I saw him, the moment he reached out to me for the first time, when he won his first basketball game, the moment I saw him scare off that creepy guy following a girl. Every time I see him, my feelings for him grow a little deeper. But this affection was never meant to be shown in the light of day. I'm shy and weak, and since Samuel treats me as a friend, I stay right where I belong, too afraid to take even one step forward. Now might finally be the time to put an end to this love that was always doomed to fade away quietly." Before I could figure out how to slowly step back from Samuel's life, his head leaned in first, his warm breath brushing my neck, and I jumped, coming back to myself. "What was it? You just said something." I zoned out and didn't catch it. As I spoke, I gently pushed Samuel's head away from my shoulder. Samuel didn't mind at all. He just leaned into the palm of my hand. "I'm hungry," he said. "What should we eat tonight?" I pulled my hand back and quietly put a bit more distance between us. "You go ahead and eat first. I need to head to the library one more time. Then I'll come with you." "No thanks," I said. "Go eat already. You said you were hungry, didn't you?" I quickly packed up my things and, before Samuel could say another word, grabbed my laptop and headed out the door. Samuel just stared at my back until I disappeared around the corner of the hallway, finally snapping back to reality. I hurried toward the library, cradling my laptop, lost in thoughts about Samuel's words and that news on my phone, so distracted I didn't see someone coming straight at me until we bumped into each other. I took a step back and quickly apologized. He sounded surprised as he called out my name. "Leo? Is that you?" I was a bit taken aback. "Dennis, what are you doing here?" Dennis is the only friend I know who's into guys like me. He's studying painting at an art school in town. We met during a volunteer event. Maybe there's just some weird connection between people who are alike, because we figured out our shared interests right away and became good friends fast. He's also the only one who knows I've had a crush on Samuel. "My sister's studying here, so I came to visit her," Dennis said. He craned his neck to glance behind me. "Where's your best buddy today? You two are always stuck together like glue." "Come on, that's not even close," I said softly. "He's got his own stuff to do too." Dennis paused, then asked with concern, "What's wrong? You look really upset." I gave up on going to the library and sat down on a quiet bench with Dennis. "You mean he's getting engaged, so what do you think? Should you tell him how you feel?" I let out a wry smile and shook my head. There was a time when I actually wanted to confess. Back then, Samuel and I were inseparable. Whenever he'd wrap his arm around my shoulder or rest his head on mine, my heart would race so hard it felt like the truth was about to spill out. Even now, I'm still glad I didn't end up blurting it out. I happened to walk in on someone else confessing to him first. He was a guy from Samuel's basketball team, and I knew he was probably one of Samuel's closer friends. But as soon as the guy spoke up, Samuel turned him down without mercy. I'm not gay. I don't like guys. The boy's eyes were red. I know, but then why did you say it? Samuel shot him a disgusted glance, turned on his heel, and walked away. Just disgusting. The guy still tried to stop him, but Samuel punched him right in the face. With a dark expression and cold tone, he said, "Don't ever show up in front of me again." Later I heard he got hurt and had to go to the hospital. Not long after that, he dropped out of school. If I'd confessed to Samuel back then, I probably would have ended up just like him. Maybe I'd end up even worse than that guy. Dennis let out a soft sigh, then reached out and pulled me into a hug. It's all right. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You just haven't met enough people yet. Want me to introduce you to a few? Tonight I'll show you around. Bang! The loud crash made both Dennis and me spin around at once. Samuel stood at a distant crosswalk. The wooden lunchbox in his hands shattered on the ground beside him. His eyes were locked on us, face dark with fury. Dennis instantly let go of me. Samuel started walking toward us, one step at a time. I just went to the library and couldn't find you. He bent down, slipping an arm around my shoulder as he whispered close to my ear. So that's where you are. Then he turned toward Dennis, his tone oddly off. Who's this? A new friend of yours? Yeah, I nodded, introducing him. This is Dennis. Then I tapped Samuel's arm lightly, trying to get him to let go, but he held on tight. I had no choice but to shift around his blocking stance and say to Dennis, "He's Samuel." That day, Dennis left in a hurry. Samuel, though, thought I'd purposely kept him from going to the library just to sneak off and meet Dennis. He got so mad he started a cold war with me. I instinctively reached out to comfort him, my mouth halfway open. Then I suddenly remembered that news story. I told myself in my heart, he's getting engaged. Time to let go. Stop crossing the line, and don't get close to him anymore. I started avoiding Samuel. Samuel and I were in different majors. Before, when we didn't have classes, I'd make up excuses to sneak into his classroom just to sit next to him. Maybe I was too good at pretending. I guess Samuel never realized I was really there only for more time with him. I forced myself to stop doing that. A normal friend wouldn't go this far. I stopped sharing my plans with him, stopped going to every single one of his basketball games, and stopped keeping an eye on him just so I could hand him water or snacks whenever he needed them. Samuel's expression grew grimmer by the day. The other two guys in our dorm secretly sent me a message. "Hey Xiaoshu, you still haven't made up yet. Please, just go talk to him. He's sending me 800 messages a day asking where you are." During the day, I'd avoid walking past Samuel, but by nightfall, I had no choice but to face him. Samuel deliberately walked right past me, slamming his stuff down with a loud bang. He probably still thought this was just like before, me playing hard to get, waiting for me to give in and say something sweet, offer him an easy way out, and then we'd be back to being best friends. I knew that if I just said one word to Samuel right now, he'd instantly give in, and we'd be the best of friends again. I just didn't want to be his best friend anymore. I lowered my head and double-checked the rental details on my phone. On the day I moved out, I deliberately got someone to keep Samuel busy. By the time he came back to the dorm that night, all I had left was an empty bed. My roommate texted me, "What's going on between you two? Why'd you suddenly decide to move out? I saw Samuel just got back." He looked straight into your empty space, and his whole face changed in an instant. I hadn't even had a chance to reply when Samuel's call came through. I set the phone down and ignored every call and message he sent. I told myself this was how it should end, right here, like this. He'd never know I'm gay, or that his best friend once secretly wanted him in a way that felt shameful. At least I could still leave with some dignity in his eyes. I flopped onto the bed, trying to escape everything by falling asleep. But in the middle of the night, I was suddenly jolted awake by urgent banging on the door. I opened the door to find Samuel standing there, his face dark with anger. "Why did you move out of the dorm?" I quickly slammed the door shut. Samuel grabbed the door frame and forced his way in. The door clicked shut behind him as he took slow, deliberate steps forward and asked again, "Why did you move out?" I stepped back slowly, avoiding his gaze. Samuel reached out and grabbed my arm, stopping me from fleeing. I tried to remind him, "We're still in a cold war. You're still mad at me, remember?" Samuel let out a bitter laugh. "You really don't know why I'm upset?" he said coldly. "You're always so kind to everyone else, always making new friends with no trouble. All my life, You've been the only friend I had. But you've got so many of them. There was a hint of hurt in Samuel's voice now. Wait, I said, puzzled. You've got plenty of friends too, like those guys on your basketball team. It was you who said you liked watching basketball games that made me join the team in the first place. Samuel paused. Do you even think they're my friends? If you say so, I cut ties with them all, so can you do the same and drop your friends? I had no idea how the conversation had taken this turn, and I forced it back on track. We were talking about the Cold War, don't bring up anything else. I don't like your new friend. He seems off somehow, Samuel said, frowning. He reminds me of those guys who tried to flirt with me before. Stay away from him. Dennis really does like guys, I said flatly. He's warning me to stay away from Dennis. If he knew about my orientation, he'd probably do the same. You knew? His expression darkened further. You knew and you let him hug you? I sighed and decided to go ahead and throw caution to the wind. I like guys too. The room fell silent for a few seconds. In the silence, time stretched on and on. I felt a numb suffocation, a deep ache, like a prisoner awaiting their final verdict. Samuel's expression shifted from initial confusion to a steadily darkening gloom. No, he said, his eyes locked onto mine, fingers instinctively clenching tight. You can't like boys. I winced from the pain and tried to pull away. Let go. Samuel just held on tighter, only letting up when he realized I was in pain. I took a step back. Samuel's hands shot out and grabbed my shoulders right away. You don't like boys. You don't like boys, do you? His face turned fierce. What's so great about those pretty boys anyway? Good news. Samuel didn't leave me just because I came out about my orientation. Bad news. Samuel thinks I'm sick and wants to take me for treatment. I was sitting on a bench in the courtyard of an old Chinese doctor's house, texting Dennis. Dennis replied, honestly, I think he's the one who's actually sick. I let out a dry laugh. The doctor said the same thing. So he took me to see another doctor. Dennis. After you came clean, he didn't leave, you know. Instead of letting up, he started watching you even closer, afraid you'd go out and hook up with someone else. Now you two live together, share meals, and even sleep in the same bed? Dennis. After all this, how can you still say you're just friends? Dennis, with his level of control, it's not like you're secretly crushing on him. Seems more like he's the one with feelings for you. I didn't know what to say, so I sent him a dry laugh emoji. Dennis gave me a single. Even though Dennis made it sound like we had real potential, I knew deep down Samuel couldn't accept that I'm into guys, because he genuinely doesn't like men. He truly believes it's wrong. I've never been clearer about one thing. Samuel could never like me, and there's no way we'll ever have a chance together. Who were you messaging? Samuel's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. He was standing behind me, leaning in to look over my shoulder, and I quickly pressed the power button to turn off my phone. Did you finish talking with the doctor? I turned to him. Samuel had a dark expression on his face, holding a stack of medicine packages. I asked, are these meds for me? Samuel tucked the pills behind his back. No, kid, these aren't for you, came the old doctor's voice from inside the room. They're for him. You should take him to get his head checked out sometime. Samuel huffed and pulled me away. The driver from the Mo family was waiting for us outside the yard. As soon as we stepped out, he quickly said to Samuel, Madam just called to remind you not to forget about Sophia's birthday party tonight. Samuel muttered impatiently, got it, I'll just take a cab back, I said, pulling out my phone. No way, Samuel said, grabbing my hand before I could type. You're coming with me, going to a birthday party for someone's fiancé as just a friend. Dennis would definitely send me 3 that's rough emojis. I refused. I don't want to go. Samuel said calmly, then I'm not going either. Let's just head back to your place. I let out a sigh and tried to reason with him. Samuel, you can't keep watching over me like this forever. How do you know I can't? Samuel wasn't listening at all. In the end, I still went to the dinner with him. The title of heir to the MO group was even more impressive than I'd imagined. Almost as soon as we stepped into the ballroom, several groups of people came over to toast Samuel. I slipped away quietly during a lull, stepping back a few paces while others were distracted. A short while later, I left the ballroom and turned toward the garden, hoping to find a side exit and slip away unnoticed. Little book, is that you? A soft voice suddenly called out from behind me. I turned to see a familiar shadow crouched in the corner, holding a tray piled high with food. I said, surprised. Senior brother? Half a minute later, the two of us found a cleaner patch of steps and sat down together. I asked, what are you doing here, anyway? Didn't your teacher drag you off to lab today? I haven't left the lab in a whole week. Had to sneak out for a proper meal, my senior brother said, handing me a small cake. What about you? Oh, right, you're friends with Samuel. I wasn't really in the mood to talk about Samuel, so I changed the subject and started chatting about some lab gossip. In return, my senior brother shared some juicy tidbits from high society. Then there's that illegitimate son the Gu family just brought back. And his older brother. I huddled close with my lab mate, whispering excitedly, what are you two chatting about? You're smiling so hard. My lab mate and I jumped at the sound, instantly straightening up. Samuel stood at the corner with a dark expression, arms crossed, looking like the world would end if he wasn't comforted right away. Felt oddly familiar, for some reason. I'm outta here, my lab mate said, ditching me without a second thought. Samuel pouted by himself for a moment. Then, seeing I wasn't about to apologize, he scowled and slid onto the seat beside me. After staring at me for a beat, he snatched the half-eaten little cake from my hand and took a big bite. Guys like him really don't know their own strength. I hesitated for a moment, then said, are you hungry? I'll go inside and get you something to eat. When he saw me about to leave, Samuel jumped up instantly and grabbed my hand. I gave him a puzzled look, trying to pull my hand back, but Samuel held on tighter instead. Can't have you sneaking off again while I'm not looking, Samuel said with total confidence, even giving me a little scolding. You're here with me tonight, just 1 second out of sight and you're already chatting up other friends. I felt guilty for a beat, promised Samuel I wouldn't slip away tonight, and kept trying to pull my hand free. Suddenly, a calm female voice cut in. Samuel, what are you doing here? A woman in a white suit walked over, her presence refined and aloof, with a sweet-faced girl beside her. Mom. The woman nodded slightly, gesturing toward the girl holding her arm. Come over and say hello to Sophia. Samuel pulled me forward and gave the girl a polite nod. Happy birthday, Sophia. It clicked then. I realized this was Samuel's fiancée, Miss Sophia of the Lin family. Thank you. Sophia smiled politely and turned to me. And who's this? My friend, Samuel said, then fell silent, showing no sign of the courtesy he should have had in introducing us properly. I decided to wish the birthday girl first, so I said to Sophia, Happy birthday, Sophia. Thank you. I thought she really was a perfect match for Samuel. I chuckled to myself. Two people from equally prestigious families, both smart and good-looking. You, Mr. Monster, had no business getting in the way. Leo's going to study under Lucas, right, Mises? Emily said. I was also one of Lucas's students, so I'm technically your senior. The professor mentioned you recently. In fact, I've got a few technical questions I'd like to ask you. Emily then told Samuel and Sophia, you two, stop standing there like statues, go take a walk in the garden and come back later. Samuel and Sophia were gently but firmly sent off. Only then did Emily turn to me and say, Leo, I know you're good friends with Samuel. I'd like to ask a favor of you. Samuel and Sophia are getting engaged soon, and I'd like them to spend more time together to build their relationship. But Samuel's been acting strange lately, always saying he's too busy. Could you please talk some sense into him for me? Emily looked straight into my eyes, as if she'd somehow sensed the unhealthy feelings I had for Samuel. I forced a smile and replied, I'll do it. That evening, after Samuel and I returned to the apartment I was renting, I decided it was time to have another serious talk with him. Are you staying here again tonight? I asked tentatively. Shouldn't you be heading back to your dorm? Samuel's brow immediately knitted in a frown. You're kicking me out? You heard what the doctor said, didn't you? I'm not sick. I'm just naturally drawn to guys. You staying here isn't going to change anything. Stop wasting your time. Samuel wasn't giving up. How can you be sure you like guys? You've never even dated one. Maybe this is all just a mistake. Seeing Samuel stubbornly refuse to accept it, I bit my lower lip lightly and whispered, because I already have a boyfriend. Samuel froze completely, his expression blank as if he hadn't understood what I'd just said. I went on. That's why I moved out to live with him. Samuel's face twisted into something terrifying, his eyes locked onto mine. Who? What? Who the hell is he? his face twisted into something terrifying, like a wild animal whose prey had been stolen. Is it that new friend of Xia's from that day? Or your older brother in studies? Or that little junior always pestering you with questions? Not someone you know, I said, not about to make up some fake name that'd be easy to expose. I hesitated, then added, if you can't handle it, just leave. We won't see each other again after this. Samuel glared at me with red eyes, let out a cold laugh, and slammed the door shut. I exhaled slowly. A drop of water landed on my hand. I realized I was crying. I knew we wouldn't see each other again. Turns out, breaking up really hurts. After that day, Samuel never came looking for me again. Without Samuel around, I still went to class, wrote papers, and headed to the lab like clockwork. Seemed just like before, but my heart kept aching with this dull, hollow emptiness. Dennis couldn't stand seeing me like that, so he dragged me off to a bar we both knew well. The only way out of heartbreak is to start something new, he said. Let me introduce you to a few people in my circle. He led me to a booth already filled with 4 or 5 guys and handed me a drink. I didn't want to ruin his mood, so I passed the glass over to this guy who looked effortlessly charming, like a classic playboy. The man glanced up and grinned, reaching for my drink, but it was snatched right out of his hand mid-motion. Samuel stood there like a storm cloud, veins bulging in the hand gripping the glass. He didn't look at me, just tossed back the drink in one go and stayed frozen in place, silent. I stepped forward and tapped his arm. Let's go. We'll talk when we get back. Samuel followed me in silence all the way back to the apartment. I sat on the bed, feeling worn out, and looked at him. Can you accept that I like guys? You said you have a boyfriend. Why hasn't he come looking for you in the past month? Samuel didn't answer my question. Instead, he shot one back at me. How do you even know he hasn't been here? I shot back stubbornly. I know. Samuel stood by the bed, eyes down on me, and repeated it again. I know. It hit me all of a sudden, and I blurted out, how do you know so much? No wonder I've had this weird feeling all month like someone's been staring at me. Every time I turned around, there was nothing. I thought I was just imagining things. I just couldn't stop worrying about you. Samuel didn't even flinch, clearly not seeing anything wrong with it. And I've never actually met your boyfriend. Were you lying to me before? Yeah. We broke up. I lied again, trying to cover my earlier lie, and subtly reminded Samuel of my orientation. The guy you saw me with at the bar today, he's my new boyfriend. The moment we brought up the bar, Samuel's expression darkened. That guy clearly isn't trustworthy. Why'd you pick him? You don't even like him, do you? Samuel just stood there, frozen for 3 full minutes. But he didn't do what I expected. He didn't back away. He stayed right in front of my bed, blocking the way. After 3 minutes had passed, Samuel looked at me. Then, as if making up his mind, I could be your boyfriend too. Wait a second. I was totally flustered. You've got an fiancé, haven't you? We're not even engaged yet. I can call it off. There are plenty of people in the Mo family anyway. Samuel seemed fed up with hearing me say no. He covered my mouth. Why wouldn't I be good enough? We're best friends, aren't we? His logic was so strange that even the next morning when I woke up, I was still in a daze. I can't believe he's still saying you two are just friends after all this. Dennis burst out laughing. And he still insists he's straight? I said, he says it's because I'm his best friend. He doesn't want me to look elsewhere. He can't handle the thought of me leaving. Whatever I want, he'll go all out to make it happen. Dennis was speechless for a while, then sent me a helpless look. Dennis, I seriously doubt both of your mental states. That's not right, is it? That can't be right. You're not seriously going to still believe you're just friends when you end up getting married one day, are you? I said, I'm ready to tell him how I feel. If he reacts the wrong way, I hope you'll help me fake a scene. It was the 2nd month we'd been living together outside, on an ordinary afternoon, when I finally confessed my feelings to Samuel. I said, the guy I told you about before was a lie. Samuel was holding me close on the couch, watching TV together. His smile hadn't even had time to form when I went on to say, I've actually been in love with someone all along. Samuel tightened his arms around me and said firmly, don't go on. I whispered softly, you don't want to know who it is? Doesn't matter, Samuel said, then leaned down and kissed me. I accepted his kiss calmly, then said, it's you. The person I've been in love with, it's you. Samuel froze, staring at me in disbelief. What about you? Do you like me? I added before he could speak, not just as friends, like lovers. Samuel was still frozen, as if the question had hit him right in the head. I don't like guys, he finally managed to say after a long pause. I gave a small smile and pulled gently out of his arms. I know, so we can't keep going like this. You should go live the life you want. No. Samuel reached for my hand in panic. All right, I said softly, gently patting his head. I was kidding just now, the person wasn't you. Samuel froze again. What? Do you remember Dennis? I've always had a crush on him. He confessed to me this morning, said he likes me too. I said yes. Samuel was still stunned. What? He wants to move in with me, and he's not some shady guy from outside. Feel free to relax. I'll still be your friend, and I won't ever stop seeing you. Just as I finished speaking, a knock came at the door. I opened the door to find Dennis standing there with his suitcase. He rushed over and hugged me tight, then said in a sugary voice, "My love, I'm here." Then he peeked past me at Samuel and muttered with a pout, "Why is he still here?" I gently ruffled his hair and said, "He'll be leaving soon." I let Dennis go into the bedroom first, then turned to look at Samuel standing stiffly in front of the sofa. "Can I pack up your things and return them to your dorm tomorrow?" I said as I stepped toward him. I'd never spoken to him with such a distant, cold tone before, and Samuel seemed to sense from my expression that I was determined to pull away. Did I do something wrong? He reached out to grab me, but I stepped aside. His hand dropped helplessly, then tugged at his shirt sleeve as he said with reddening eyes, "We're fine like this, aren't we? You promised you'd never leave me. You didn't do anything wrong, you've been perfect. I'm not leaving you at all. Love and friendship don't have to be enemies, do they? Are you really gonna stop being my friend just because we're engaged?" Samuel never could argue me down. He just had a gut feeling that this wasn't what he really wanted. Samuel's voice came out low and quiet. "I've already turned down the engagement. Please don't have a boyfriend either." Okay. I stayed silent. Samuel looked up, his voice urgent. "You want love, right? I can give you that. I could be your boyfriend." "Samuel," I said, my voice calm and steady, as if I'd thought about this for a long time. "You'll meet someone one day, the girl you truly love. You'll marry her, have kids together, grow old side by side. You two will have a wonderful life. You like girls? Whether it's Sophia or someone else, it doesn't matter. It'll be another girl eventually. I don't want to push you into anything. It's okay because it's you. It's fine." I looked at him and said, "You know what I want, don't you?" Samuel nodded, then reached for my hand. "I love you. I don't like guys, but I love you. I'm not forcing myself. I just feel this way naturally." My eyes stung a little, so I cupped his face and gently kissed the corner of his lips. "Sounds like a perfect answer. Can I be your boyfriend? Please?" Samuel pressed little kisses all over my face like a puppy. "Well then." I smiled softly, speaking in a quiet voice. "Boyfriend." I'd always been bracing myself for the day Samuel would break up with me, but a year passed, then 2, 5, 10, until I finally agreed to go abroad with him to get our papers signed, and he was still as clingy as when we were young. At this point, Sophia had married another young man from the MO family. She didn't really care who her husband was afterward. She moved in with Samuel's mother. Whenever my partner and I returned home occasionally, I'd see her still quietly following Emily's side like that little girl from back then. Dennis went overseas to study painting under a very renowned teacher. Samuel even arranged the introduction, hoping he'd go far away and start fresh. It wasn't that Samuel didn't figure out we were pretending back then. He realized it the moment he brought me to the manor. But Dennis had been going through on-again, off-again breakups with his ex-boyfriend for years. Every time he called me in the middle of the night, I'd sneakily get him to go sleep in the guest room just to annoy him. Samuel went through a few rough patches but still ended up smoothly taking over the MO Group empire. I smoothly got into the research institute and continued on the path I truly loved. Maybe one day Leo and Samuel will go their separate ways, or maybe we'll stay together and spend the rest of our lives side by side.